Okay, let's jump right into this explainer. You know, when we look out the window and spot a community cat, it's so easy to just see this cute, independent little animal roaming the neighborhood. But today, we're going to peel back that layer. We're looking at the intense, totally involuntary biological timeline that an unspayed feral queen actually endures out there. It's fascinating, for sure, but it is a relentless biological reality. So, what does spring actually mean for a feral cat? Well, we romanticize spring, right? Flowers blooming, longer days, finally getting out of the cold. But for an unspayed feral cat, spring isn't just a nice change in the weather. It is a harsh environmental trigger that throws her body straight into a brutal reproductive sprint. See, cats are what biologists call long-day breeders. Essentially, their reproductive cycles are directly wired to the sun. As those days get longer, the increasing light, the photoperiod, causes her melatonin levels to drop. And that biological shift activates a whole chain reaction in her brain, her hypothalamic pituitary gonadal axis, to be exact. The craziest part? She has zero say in this. It completely bypasses any autonomy she has. Her body's literally just reacting to the sunlight. That chemical shift forces her straight into estrus, or what we commonly call heat. It kicks off this cycle of follicular recruitment in her ovaries. And as those follicles grow, they pump out estradiol, which drives all those classic behaviors you might have seen or heard, the loud vocalizing, the restlessness, the endless pacing. Remember, she isn't deciding to act this way. It's a strict biological mandate just echoing through her whole system. Now, feline ovulation is incredibly unique. Classically, cats are known as induced ovulators, meaning they don't just release an egg on a set schedule. They actually require the physical act of mating to trigger ovulation. But, and this is a pretty wild discovery, in social group living situations like feral colonies, anywhere from 35 to 60% of queens can actually experience spontaneous ovulation without ever mating. Her biology is just incredibly adaptable, constantly pushing toward reproduction. But for those following that classic induced route, the mechanics of mating are rapid, repetitive, and honestly, exhausting. To get a strong enough hormonal response, specifically a massive surge in luteinizing hormone, or LH, she usually needs multiple copulations. We're talking 3 to 4 times in just a 24-hour window. And once that LH surge hits, ovulation typically follows 24 to 32 hours later. Section 1. The 65-day gestation sprite. This timeline moves at an absolute breakneck speed. By day 14, the embryos are already implanting in the uterus. Day 25, a vet could already confirm viability on an ultrasound. By day 42, fetal skeletons are fully visible on an X-ray. And by day 65, she's giving birth. Seriously, just 7 weeks after implantation, this feral queen is already delivering a litter into the world. And here is a wild biological quirk for you. Because of her intense heat cycle and the need to mate multiple times, she might go through something called superfecundation. Basically, her body can carry kittens from several different males at the exact same time. So a single litter could have 2, 3, or even more different fathers. It's nature's way of maximizing the genetic diversity of the colony. But once those 65 days are up, she has to find whatever shelter she can in a really unforgiving environment. Sometimes caretakers provide makeshift boxes lined with agricultural straw, which is great because it traps radiant heat perfectly. But a lot of queens aren't that lucky. They're forced to give birth to highly vulnerable, blind and deaf neonates under porches, inside broken sheds, or completely exposed to the elements beneath dumpsters. Section 2. The harsh survival laugh. And the reality of this math really comes down to one devastating number: 75%. Field-grounded data tells us that 75% of feral kittens will die or disappear before they even reach 6 months of age. They are incredibly vulnerable to hypothermia, panleukopenia, severe flea infestations, local predators. It is just a staggering loss of life. To combat that massive mortality rate, the queen's biology just shifts into absolute overdrive. Studies show she's forced to average about 1.4 litters every single year, with a median of 3 kittens per litter. Her body is just constantly draining its physical reserves, trying to outpace the death rate of her own offspring. And maybe the most exhausting part of this whole metabolic drain is her recovery time, or, well, the total lack of it. Even if she's actively nursing or if she tragically loses her entire litter to the elements, her body doesn't give her a break. It can throw her right back into estrus in just 1 to 3 weeks. The biological marathon just starts all over again. Section 3. Breaking the biological cycle. So, how do we stop this? Well, trap, neuter, return, or TNR, steps in as a vital, scientifically validated medical intervention. Caretakers humanely trap the cat, get her to a clinic for surgical sterilization, provide critical vaccines for rabies and distemper, and then safely return her to her outdoor colony. She gets to stay in her known territory, but that endless reproductive loop is completely halted. The biological transformation here is profound. Once a queen gets TNR'd, that massive hormonal floor of estrogen simply drops out. Within weeks, the involuntary heat cycles end. The desperate vocalizations stop. The immense physical toll of constant pregnancies is instantly relieved. Literally, for the first time in her life, her metabolic energy can be used just to keep herself healthy. And if you look at the macro data, it is incredibly effective. By tackling the biology right there in the field, TNR drastically reduces the number of kittens born outside. Look at this major 3-year study of 6 municipal shelters using targeted TNR. Total feline intake dropped by 32%. Kitten intake fell by 40%. And the biggest win? Municipal kitten euthanasia rates plummeted by an absolutely staggering 87%. The science is totally clear here. We can't just remove cats from the environment. If we do, it creates this biological vacuum effect. Basically, undefended food and shelter act like a magnet, inviting new, unsterilized cats to migrate right in, and the population explodes all over again. Instead, TNR leaves the animals exactly where they are, to defend their territory, but it permanently turns off their biological capability to reproduce. So as we wrap up this explainer, I really want to leave you with this thought. The next time you spot a feral cat in your community, remember she isn't just living free. She is at the absolute mercy of the seasons, forced to run this brutal biological marathon. Consider how supporting local TNR efforts might just be the greatest gift of rest and health you could possibly give her. Because once we understand the biology driving her marathon, the real question is, how can we afford not to intervene?